Oh well.
What?
I don't think we're going to be on X. I don't have the show notes right. Nothing. I'm scrambling. This is James Lee is not going to be on the show again. Let me change this real quick. It is absolutely amateur hour tonight, without a
No
doubt.
doubt, no doubt about it, because I have not gotten an X notification that we're live on X. Who
Well,
knew?
I'm running off my laptop, so I've not authorized X on the laptop yet. Um, and I'm running off of my laptop tonight because a squirrel or some little animal who is going to not be with us any much longer when I find him has chewed the network cable out to my office, and I didn't have time to fix it, so that's why my lighting's not right. I'm sitting in my living room, well, actually dining area on the table. It's Anyway, we're lucky we have a show tonight.
Hey, we're gonna
Well,
get
so
it done.
basically, what?
We're gonna trudge through, boys.
All right, so
Oh,
I'm gonna mute
okay.
Chris because he's not on the screen yet.
You might as well bring Chris in. You might as well just say, "Hey, you know what? He's a part of the show. It's just going to be a fun, screwed up, jacked up show. He can be here from the beginning."
Yeah, that sounds good to me. We're just absolutely winging it and living up to our reputation of amateur hour.
Yeah.
Well, y'all are kicking ass.
So while it's amateur hour for everybody, y'all may recognize Rex, and you may recognize me. I mean, I have been around a little bit, but there is this guy in the middle here that you have seen on this show before, and he has that last name of Alexander. And if you're one of those people that gets around Republican circles, you probably heard of that name before, but none other than not Royal, but Mr. Chris Alexander from Baton Rouge. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. And
Thank y'all for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and
yeah,
we've already got, I don't know, about 50 people watching. Again, we're not on X, so that's probably going to kick off about a dozen or so people right at the time when we had X kind of building up steam. So, anyway.
Yeah, so tonight we've got a pretty good show for you. Of course, what would a Bossier Watch show this month be without talking about the race in Council District 5 in Bossier City with Vince Maggio and Ruth Pope Johnson? We're going to talk about that a little bit more. There's a Republican Women of Bossier meeting going on, and as I understand it, there is diehard Trump conservative Republicans at that meeting right now, cheering on the Republican Party and conservative limited government values. And as soon as they leave there, they're going to be out putting up signs for Democrats. That's what
Oh, I have so
I
many
understand is
comments for
happening.
that, but I will save them for just a little while anyway.
I know, but who knows? But hey, Chris is here, and I think Chris is he's got some other ideas regarding the constitutional amendments, and we're going to deep dive into that. And Louisiana Conservative Action Group. Did I pronounce it correct?
Oh, conservative advocacy group, but you're close.
Advocacy. See, close enough. I mean, I should know that now.
Yeah.
You can beat me down when you see me next and slap me around.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
a greater organization, and I don't know if I'm 100% going to be on board with what Chris and LeCag. I mean, we encourage people with alternative views and other ideas. I think Chris and his group watched our show last week, and they have some counterpoints that they would like to make and present. And hey, we're going to have a little bit of a debate. We encourage everyone who disagrees with us to come on and challenge us. I mean, we only progress and we only get better through the debate and through, talking about these things. That's how we all improve and we all get better, right?
100%. That's absolutely true. And I love, I think it was Voltaire who said that I may disagree with what you say and disagree vehemently, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And that is what is so critically important. And quite frankly, I think that is something that we have to remember. If we're going to preserve our own right to speak and to speak freely, we have got to be just as vigilant in preserving the right to speak of people with whom we may disagree. It's so important. So important. Yeah, so I agree
100%.
So what are we going to do, Rex? Are we going to do our little break thing, or are we just going to like jump right off into this and just start debating right out of the gate?
I would like to go ahead and do the countdown and the break. That way I can jump up and grab me a glass of tea or a bottle of water real quick, because I haven't even had time to do that. So that'll give us about 2.5 minutes to do that and share the show out. We're up to, 50 some odd, nearly 60 people, over 60 now watching. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We'll be right back. Folks, y'all know the drill. For about 2.5 minutes, we're going to have our countdown, a quick commercial break. Go ahead and pop your popcorn, mix you a stiff drink. When we come back, we're going to be discussing these constitutional amendments again and get Chris's point of view. And we had some fireworks and shenanigans going on at the city council meeting, so we'll be discussing that. Are you ready to go to break, Mr. Lowry?
Let's do it to it. Chris, you ready?
All right.
I'm ready.
All right, we'll be right back. Podcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Well, we're back. That was awfully fast. 2.5. Let me get Chris back. Wait, it is just amateur hour. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to make me a glass of tea. Take the reins for a little bit, Mr. Lowry, and keep everybody entertained for just about 30 seconds.
I think I can handle that. I mean, look, I made a living as being a fireman of making calm of chaotic situations, and this is by far, I think, the most chaotic BusinessesFinishing show we've had today. I don't know if this is the squirrels at your house or if this is Chris and his South Louisiana ilk. I don't know which it is.
I'm going to kill some squirrels.
Man. I'm blaming it on the squirrels.
Yeah, I'm going to kill some. If y'all hear some gunshots, don't worry. I'll be right back.
That's what you're going to do. You're not going to get tea. You're going to shoot squirrels.
All right. Well, me and Chris are going to take over from here. All right, Chris.
Yeah.
So I know you're a political wonk like me. We're going to get to the constitutional amendments because there's a lot of people still, even now, they've heard the pros, they've heard the cons, they're still on the fences. But one big thing as it relates to Louisiana has been, we had a Supreme Court case and regarding the our Mike Johnson and all of our congressional districts. And did you have any takes on, or what your opinions were on that or feedback? I mean, my kind of take was that the Supreme Court, they kind of saw it for what it was. It was politics. Did you take away the same thing or what?
I listened to some of the arguments, Duke, and I know that the people who want to maintain that district, the lawyers who want to maintain that district, were saying, this is all about politics, all about politics, all about politics. Even though the people who want to have the district, reversed or nullified, we're bringing up the fact that Senator Womack in the committee was talking about the race and basically admitted that this does have a lot to do with race. It's going to be interesting in June, Duke, to see what the Supreme Court says on this, and whether or not they come to the conclusion that the redrawing of this district was predominantly based on race or not. I do know this. I know that 80% of this new district is comprised of a former district that was previously declared unconstitutional. So that 20% that comprises part of this new district is going to have to be very, very critical, and the court will have to conclude that makes the difference. But it'll be really interesting to see. One thing I believe is I think it's very, very unfortunate that we have Cleo Fields sitting in the U.S. Congress with the very, very thin majority that we have in the U.S. Congress right now. I think it's perilous, perilous. And I think that his opponent, Elbert Guillory, is a good man and almost got into that runoff and actually could have won it, but didn't get the help from some of the people that he probably should have gotten it from. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But as we sit here, there's at least a possibility that Cleo Fields may be a congressman for 2 years and no longer.
So I remember when this thing started, and my thoughts were that, there was a lot of people being critical of the legislature and being critical of the governor on not fighting. I mean, I think even Mike Johnson was promoting, hey, we need to fight or what have you. But there were, as I appreciate it and as I remember it, they were critical of the governor and all saying, no, let's go ahead and do it, because in the long run, this thing is going to come full circle. Do you think that maybe that was correct, that this thing is going to come full circle, and that maybe there was a bit of wisdom there to, let's go ahead and redraw it the way this judge is saying redraw it, and it is going to turn around, we're going to be proved to be right, but that we follow the rule of law?
No. And the reason why I don't believe that, Duke, is that the legislature was given a choice by the U.S. Fifth Circuit, either draw a new district or go into court and fight for the 2022 district. But they just kind of threw in the towel there, and they went in and they drew this new district with a second minority district. I agree with Speaker Johnson. I think that they should have gone in and fought on the 2022 district. We had Paul Hurd on our podcast, who actually litigated has litigated the first two redistricting cases in Louisiana, and he said that this new district is patently unconstitutional, classic racial gerrymandering. The federal district, 3-panel federal district court said that before, which is why the party who wants to keep the district is appealing it up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But to answer your question, I think we had a good district in 2022, and I think they should have gone in and fought for that district more. But anyway, hindsight is 2020. I know that when I testified on this bill, I think it was SB 8 maybe in the legislature, my biggest concern, Duke and Rex, was simply that by basically giving away a district, we are severely jeopardizing the Republican majority in the U.S. Congress. That was my concern, and that was the main reason why I wanted to go. I didn't want to give it away, because right now, if you look at the Wisconsin Supreme Court race in Wisconsin right now, whoever wins that Supreme Court race is going to significantly restructure the demographics of that case. It's a one justice difference up there, and they're going to create at least 2 more congressional districts for Democrats in Wisconsin. If that happens, then we're in serious jeopardy in the U.S. Congress. So my concern on it was basically that I don't want to lose the Republican majority. Believe me, I've got a lot of criticisms of Republicans, and I don't think Mike Johnson has by any stretch done everything right. But it's a far cry from having it controlled by, the radical Democrats. And that was my concern, and I just don't want it to come to that. They would do everything within their power to sabotage Trump. They're already doing it. Can you imagine if they had the congressional majority? It would just hamstring him bad. Again, the U.S. Supreme Court may come back and say, look, this is perfectly fine. This is sufficiently compact. It was based on political and not racial considerations, and the district can stand. But I just don't know what they're going to do. So we'll see.
I got a question, and we may have covered this topic before, but can you explain to the audience how the district lines are drawn? I mean, who sits down and actually, do they just take a map and close their eyes and stick their finger down there and say that's the district?
One of the justices, this is a great question, Rex. One of the justices, I think it was Justice Kavanaugh during the oral arguments, he said, I'm looking at this district, and this thing goes from Baton Rouge up through Alexandria, Shreveport, and then, curves over west. And then it's like a big, it's like a Z, and he said it looks like you're just kind of going around the state here, and you're just trying to pick up enough black population to get a majority black population here. It's like, is that what was going on? And they basically kind of dodged that question and said that, well, yes, that's true, but the reason why we were doing that was not primarily because it was not based on race primarily. We did it because we wanted to preserve the speaker's seat. We wanted to preserve Julia Letlow's seat, Steve Scalise's seat. And so what we did was based on largely political considerations because we didn't want to lose those seats. But if you look at the district, it's just unbelievable that I or people who live near me would be voting in the same election that somebody up in Bossier Parish or Caddo. I'm in Baton Rouge. Y'all are 250 miles away from me.
Wait a minute. Wait. Back up just a second. Maybe I misunderstood what you just said. Did you just say that the reapportionment of the district was to benefit Mike Johnson and Julia Letlow and Clay Higgins? Did you say that way? That was the reason they did what they did?
Absolutely. That's why they did it. There's no question about it. And they said that in the committee hearings. Unfortunately, Garrett Graves, our congressman from down here in Baton Rouge, was a casualty of that because he lost his seat. But yeah.
Okay, Chris. Me and you are gonna challenge each other.
That's
here a
what they
little bit.
said.
Okay, so either they redrew the lines that way, or they redrew the lines to benefit a minority. Which is it? It can't be both.
That's a great question. And to be honest with you, Senator Womack basically at different points in the committee hearing said both things. At some point, he said it was based on politics, and at other times, he said it was, largely based on race. So it's just it's an interesting question, but they win the case as if the Supreme Court believes that this district was drawn predominantly for political reasons in order to preserve Republican congressional seats, including the Speaker of the House, and was not drawn primarily based on race, then the people who want the district are going to win. It's just hard to look at this district and make any sense of it, because of that's the point.
Well, yeah, and looking at the district, I got to tell you, how the hell a district can be drawn slashing from around the Baton Rouge area all the way north up into Shreveport. There's no way anybody can conceivably draw a district that relates someone from Shreveport to Baton Rouge or New Orleans. It's not. I mean, one group supports the Dallas Cowboys, the other group supports the New Orleans Saints. There's no way they have something in common. And
that's true.
And I find it hard to believe. I can't buy into. I mean, look, there's nobody that will be more critical of Mike Johnson than me. You know that. Rex knows that. But even I have to say, I don't believe for a second that the districts were redrawn to benefit Congressman Letlow, Congressman Johnson, or Congressman Higgins. I don't believe that for a second. I think the lines were drawn to benefit a race, which is illegal. And I think at the end of the day, the U.S. Supreme Court is going to find that is the case. That was why it was done the way it was done, and that is what Judge Dick ordered, and the legislature did it. I think that'll be the end conclusion of it.
So Duke, you think that are you saying that the Supreme Court is going to end up declaring this district unconstitutional?
I think that they will, because if you say that you can legally draw this district the way you did based on race, what's fixing to happen across the whole country? What's fixing to
Yeah,
happen? How many cases the freaking U.S. Supreme Court is fixing to be saddled with nothing but endless cases regarding gerrymandering districts across the whole country based on race? I mean, I think that's the way it's going to happen. I think they rule right on this and they say, you can't do this based on race. I think that's what's going to
yeah,
happen.
and
We,
and and
we,
and yeah, Duke, you are, and you're in agreement with Paul Hurd, who is one of the preeminent constitutional attorneys and redistricting attorneys in Louisiana, was actually in D.C. for the oral arguments up there, and he agrees with you 100%. He said this is classic racial gerrymandering. And again, a three-panel U.S. District Court has already declared that the case, and so we'll see what happens with the Supreme Court. As you know, unfortunately, we don't know. The Supreme Court has become more unpredictable than it's ever been. When you look at this situation now, with these radical federal judges, this judge trying to tell President Trump that he doesn't have the Article 2 executive authority to get thugs out of our country, and that he's answerable to a federal judge for trying to do that. That is a gross invasion of his executive prerogatives. So, and John Roberts on the Supreme Court basically said, sorry, this is just a judicial disagreement. We can't get involved in this. It's not just a disagreement. This is an invasion of President Trump's authority. So I say that to say this: I don't know what the U.S. Supreme Court is going to do, but I hope that for reasons, Rex, that you articulated, I hope that the U.S. Supreme Court declares this new district unconstitutional, because I think it will open up a ton of cases that they don't want. I think it's going to open up a Pandora's box on this issue.
Could be very interesting. And, it's one of those things, not to belabor the point too much, but with the districting and redistricting and gerrymandering and all that, and if they're really truly trying to draw this district based on race to capture certain, minorities or whatever the case may be, it just seems to me that we don't want to exclude anybody from being represented, but the district's lines and the district areas on the map should represent that district population-wise. So let's say that, I'm just going to pick an area. Let's say that the Shreveport-Caddo district area is majority black population. The district lines should fairly represent that. It should represent the population as a whole of that particular area. That seems the right way to me, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. But the reality is that we may not have a contiguous, compact black population in Louisiana to create another congressional district. And you can't just go around the state and pick up black voters and say, okay, here's the new district. It's 5149, African American, and so we have a new congressional district. That's not how this is supposed to work. And so I think, and anybody who looks at this district, on a map is like, how in God's name did they come up with this? And even the legislators who passed it said, look, I know it's ugly looking. They've all said that. This is really ugly looking, but we really had no choice. This is what the federal judge said that we needed to do. And so we did it. But it really is an ugly looking district. I have a hard time believing that this is going to survive constitutional scrutiny.
Yeah, I do as well. But in the wider, view of all of this, this is another example of, judicial overreach, and y'all broached that subject just a little bit, but we're seeing that on a national scale. And I've been advocating, and I'm just going to say what I believe. I believe the, federal district court in D.C. needed to be abolished. I mean, dispersed amongst the country, just disperse it from the West Coast to the East Coast, destroy it, dissolve it, get rid of it. There should not be a federal district court, in the District of Columbia. It just shouldn't be there. We need to get rid of it. There is, we're seeing these people over and over again, you know, with a bias in Republican Democrat politics in every aspect of government. We're seeing it more so now. I think the statistic was what, 65 TROs against Trump, currently, whereas historically in all the previous terms, it was an average of about 14 to 15 TROs per presidency. And this has to end. We're seeing activist judges, and we a lot of folks don't recognize that. When they hear people like us, political wonks like Chris, like Rex, like me, when we start talking about uh, that there's a constitutional crisis or whatever, a lot of people that flies over their heads. But why people should be concerned about this is that, you have co-equal branches of government for a reason, that everything is equal. You have this balance, but it has become unbalanced where you have a judiciary that is trying to assert a control of our country that was never meant to be. It wasn't meant by the framers, it wasn't meant by anyone, and yet they're doing it more so now than ever before. I think that's even the case with this Dick opinion, regarding our gerrymandering in Louisiana. And that's why it's important to the Supreme Court. Either they're going to get it right or they're not. I'll shut up and let y'all talk. I'm sorry. You struck a nerve and I just had to go off. I had to get it off my chest.
Duke, I think that's an excellent point that you make, and uh, it really is very, very troubling. So, what happens in a situation where you take something like this judicial invasion of Trump's executive authority, and he appeals it up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court did what they did, and basically they don't do anything. This is a clear invasion of executive privilege, and the U.S. Supreme Court did nothing about it. So Trump, what is he supposed to do? At some point, he has to start it basically disobeying this judicial tyranny. Now, I know he did it by asserting the Enemies Alien Act, saying that he had a right to do it, and now he's asserting the Executive Secrets Privilege Act, and in order to be able to do what he's doing. So he's not blatantly. I mean, he's couching his defiance of this federal judge Brosberg in this case, where the judge said, "Bring these terrorists back in front of me, and let's have a hearing on whether or not you have the authority to kick these guys out of the country."
Wait a minute. Terrorists? No. No, you're talking about what, the damn Mexican mafia. That's what you're talking about. You're not talking about terrorists. I mean, yeah, I know Trump declared them as terrorists, but no, this guy's defending the Mexican mafia that invaded our
Yeah.
country.
He actually is defending the Mexican mafia. He's got no right to do it. So at some point, what I'm saying is either the U.S. Supreme Court addresses this issue, or the President Trump is going to have to disobey these orders. And you talk about a constitutional crisis at that
Yeah.
point. That's going to be a real crisis, and I certainly hope it doesn't get to that point. But it'd be bad if it did.
You know, I agree. I agree with you. It'll be bad if it does, but I got to tell you, Chris, I think we're at the tipping point. It has to happen. We have to go ahead and we have to deal with this. We can't keep putting this off. What if we just, we're able to work this out and it's able to smooth over, and then we have the next administration comes in and the same bull crap is able to be done again? No,
Yeah, they
no,
just keep kicking the can down the curb.
I
That's been the
disagree.
problem.
Let's bring this crap to a head. These judges and the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court isn't going to know their role, I'm sorry. I'm going to say something that may get me in trouble, but we got to start hanging people high. We got to start hanging people
Well,
high.
I absolutely understand that. I just it's just disappointing that we are face the possibility that there could be that kind of fracture between two co-equal branches of government. I hope that we don't have to see it, because you'd be in a situation where the president of the United States is directly disobeying an Article 3 judge, and I just hope that there's a way. If the U.S. Supreme Court, by the way, Rex and Duke, did its job the way it should be doing it, we wouldn't even be in the situation that we're in right now. There wouldn't even be any issue right now. All the Supreme Court had to do was say, "What are you doing, Judge Bossberg? This is core Article 2 authority. The president has a right to do what he's doing, and you need to buck out of this." But I'll tell you one of the reasons why we have the problem with the federal judges across the country. Don't ever let anybody tell you, boys, that there's not a consequence for Marxists and anti Americans invading our school system in the United States going back 40 and 50 and 60 years. The Marxists have invaded the administrations and the faculties of many of our high schools and colleges, particularly the elite colleges. And the version of the Constitution that many of these former students and now judges learned was not the version of the Constitution that you and I and millions of other Americans appreciate. They used the Constitution, and these cases that we're seeing now are textbook examples of this. They use the Constitution. They don't reverence the Constitution. They don't seek to apply the Constitution faithfully. They use the Constitution as a mechanism to advance their political agenda. And that's what these federal judges are trying to do. And that's really what makes it so dangerous. I don't think they have a real reverence for the Constitution, for our founding fathers, or for the framework of our United States Constitution. And that's the problem. And I think that's the result, again, of the indoctrination that so many of them received in our schools.
It's hard to disagree with that. I mean, there's so many places we could take that comment, and I agree with you. We could turn this into a couple of days long show if we wanted to.
No,
Yeah.
no doubt, no doubt about it. So I want to get to the main agenda here. All right, so the amendments. We had a pretty good guest on our last show, and I noticed that you kind of chimed in the comments a little bit, and you were kind of contradicting a little bit, or maybe wanting to try to say something, but on these constitutional amendments, I think maybe you have a little bit of a different take on these constitutional amendments. We'll segue a little bit. A lot of folks are interested. There's, been a lot of, I'm happy to see it. There's been a lot of dialogue about these constitutional amendments, some disagreement. I think best maybe to go from them. Amendment 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go through them all. So, Amendment 1, Chris, where do you stand on that? What is your organization? Y'all have a little bit of a different take, I think. What's your take on this?
Well, our principal objection to it, guys, is that Amendment 1 issues relating to lawyer discipline and the creation of specialty courts in Louisiana does not belong in the Constitution, in the Louisiana Constitution. I don't have an issue with the legislature creating specialty courts. I don't have, and I certainly don't have an issue with the Louisiana Supreme Court uh, sanctioning or disciplining lawyers who are practicing in Louisiana who may be from out of state. That's not the issue. My issue is that this doesn't belong in the Constitution. Our Constitution is a governing document. It's not an instrument of policy making. So our position is that this simply does not belong in the Constitution. You guys may know this because I know how astute y'all are. Our
Okay,
Constitution,
hold, hold up, hold up. Let's set the groundwork here. I told you I was going to challenge you a little bit, right?
yeah,
Okay,
sure.
so say what you just said again. Our Constitution shouldn't what?
I don't think that the Louisiana Constitution is the place for policy making, and I think
So
it's the legislature's responsibility to pass laws that govern the issues that Amendment 1 covers. I think issues related to lawyer discipline and the creation of specialty courts and that sort of thing, I don't think it belongs in
so
the Constitution.
so our Constitution should delineate who gets exemptions and who doesn't.
Well, when you're talking, Rex, about core constitutional privileges, I mean, if you go back and look at the founding of our country, we've never taxed the church. We've never taxed charitable organizations. And
Is that
amendment.
what this is doing?
Oh, I thought you were alluding there to Amendment 2. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I am. I'm bouncing back and forth, and I'm challenging you. This is Duke.
Yeah.
It's not Rex.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm just saying. I mean, you're saying that we shouldn't put things into the Constitution, but yet we should leave exemptions in the Constitution for. But as I appreciate it, we're not taxing churches or anybody. I mean, are we taxing people? Are you saying that we are taxing people in Amendment 2?
No. And we've never said that. The trouble that we have with Amendment 2 is that the constitutional protections that are in the Constitution for religious organizations are being narrowed, and the constitutional protections for all other nonprofits in Louisiana are being entirely removed from the Constitution, and they're going to be in statute. And I agree. I agree because I had a conversation with Alan Seabaugh on Facebook. We had an exchange, and Alan's done a lot of great work. But we have a fundamental disagreement on this. And I said, Alan, look, the bottom line is we're not saying that the churches or the nonprofits are going to be immediately taxed. We're simply saying that you're putting this in statute. And why are you taking core religious protections out of the Constitution and putting them in statute? What's the reason for that? You're clearly narrowing the religious tax exemption. Why are you doing that? You're clearly eliminating the constitutional tax protections for nonprofits and putting, why would you be doing that if there was
But
not at least a possibility at some point that y'all were going to
Well,
start toying
let,
with this?
all right. So a thought just occurred to me. So why should it be in the state constitution to protect the tax exempt status of any religious organization? And how do you define a church? So if somebody wants to start the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, which is an internet thing, and they declare themselves a church and a religious organization, should they be tax exempt too?
I think that, and that's the whole problem here. You're talking about an abuse of you're talking about an abuse of a nonprofit, a situation where an organization that clearly is not a recognized religious organization is abusing the nonprofit status in order not to have to pay taxes. I think that
All
kind of
right.
situation.
Let's change the subject then. So
Yeah.
Jim Jones, who obviously can't start a church now unless he comes back from the dead, but let's use Jim Jones as an example and his
Okay.
church.
Okay.
Before they drank the Flavor Aid.
Well, I mean, if to the extent that Jim Jones was at least facially a religious organization, and was, I don't even know what Jim Jones was. Did he purport to be a Christian organization?
He purported to be some sort of religious organization now.
Yeah. So I think that's the kind of situation where you have to look at it, and if you want to challenge the nonprofit status of a quote unquote religious organization, that's what we have lawyers for. That's what we have the attorney general for. That's what we have administrative agencies for. But to make a in a sweeping way to narrow the religious exemption in the Constitution is you understand that right now churches and church property are all tax exempt. But with this amendment, the only property of a church that would be constitutionally protected as far as taxes would be the church itself, the seminary where the pastors or priests are trained, and where the pastor or priest lives. All other church property would be vulnerable to property taxes. Now, again, I know
you said the key. You said, not to interrupt you, but you said the key word vulnerable, which, as I understand it, and I'm just doing the counterpoint here, as I understand it, if the church is going to lease their property to, I don't know, a men's tuxedo rental place, I don't know, I'm just picking something, then that property would not necessarily be tax exempt because it is not following the mission of the church itself. Is that correct
I
or not?
agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. If it is completely unrelated to the function and the mission of the church, I agree with it. But that's not what this amendment does. This amendment specifically specifies the church property where the church is, the seminary where the pastors are trained, and the place where the pastor or the priest lives. So the constitutional language is being changed, severely changed and narrowed. But the big problem that I have, Rex, guys, the big problem I have with this is the ballot language. I have repeatedly said, I don't care how people vote on Constitutional Amendment 2. People have a right to vote however they want to vote. But the government has a responsibility to make sure the ballot language that 90% of voters are going to be reading to determine how they vote is accurate. And if you can't just not put on ballot language that the constitutional tax exemption for every secular nonprofit in Louisiana is being eliminated from the Constitution. You can't just not put on the ballot language.
You got to let me get in here, Rex.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got to let me get in here because I'm like holding. Got to get in here. Okay. So I want to back up here. I mean, you're getting into the language and whether or not we got, the technicalities of multiple things on the ballot or not, or, I get that argument too, but I want to go back to this religion thing. And I'm not saying that being, I'm not saying here's the thing. Being atheist is a religion. I mean, being not believing in a religion, that's by definition a religion. And if we constitutionally protect every religion, even if it's not a religion, doesn't that limit legislators or our legislature from being able to address issues regarding exemptions from maybe, things that should be legitimately exempted? That's one question. Second question is, you know, is it fair for, let's say, a church, and let's use an example that is a plausible example for a church. Let's say churches providing daycare. You know, if someone is in the business of providing daycare service, who just as a separate business and apart, they don't get any tax exemptions. But if the church provides daycare services, they get exempt. Is that picking winners and losers or not? Is that right? Should it be exempt? Um, you know, I'm pulling at a lot of people's heartstrings here. Even all of us are here on this show. You want to advocate for your church, you want to advocate for your religion, but at the end of the day, is it government picking winners and losers? Are you giving one side a benefit that the other side can't get, a private business that if they want to do that? I mean, am I barking up the wrong tree here, Chris?
Well, I think that in the history of our country, churches and church property have never been taxed. This is this is a situation where, in our view, constitutional protection from taxation for religious organizations is something that is fundamental and very, very important. And regarding your other question, Rex, about if it's an atheist quote unquote religion, and they want to claim that we're a religion and we don't want to have to pay any kind of taxes, well, the new language in the Constitution the amended language itself would protect that, as long as the atheist organization was operating exclusively for, quote, religious purposes in advance of his atheist dogma. So the new language in the Constitution would protect that scenario as well. But I want to say this because I can't emphasize this enough. This is a 115-page bill, guys, 115-page bill. And the ballot language on this bill simply does not accurately tell the voters what the amendment actually will do. And I just want to give you a couple of examples. The ballot language says that they are retaining the religious exemption in the Constitution, tax exemption, when in fact they're not. They're narrowing it severely. The ballot language does not say that the constitutional tax exemption for all other nonprofits is being entirely eliminated from the Constitution and will go into statute. That's not on the ballot. The ballot language does not say that the tax deduction, how we get to deduct from our state taxes any amounts that we paid in federal taxes, that's being repealed and taken out of the Constitution. The ballot language says that there's going to be a teacher pay raise, a permanent teacher pay raise. And if you look at the language in this bill, that absolutely is not guaranteed by any means. They're deleting two major educational trust funds in order to put money into the Louisiana Teachers Retirement Program so that the local school boards can pay less and save money. And if they save enough money, then they have to give the teachers a pay raise. If they don't have to give the teachers a pay raise. This is by no means a guaranteed teacher pay raise. I could literally go on and on and on about important issues that are not on the ballot language. And you can't do that.
Let me make a point though here. And I agree with you 100% that the ballot language is a little ambiguous and vague, but the truth is you can only put so many characters on that ballot. And here's where I'll disagree with you. How did you know that all this stuff was on that Amendment 2? How did you know Amendment 2 covered all this stuff? How did you know, Chris?
Well, because I have an organization that's got hundreds of members, and I have a responsibility
Well,
to
you're
tell
missing
them
my
what they
point.
need to do.
At some point, you read HB7, right?
Yeah, yes, I did.
And it is public. Follow my bouncing ball for a second. And again, I don't disagree with you, but I'm trying to do the counterpoint here. So follow my bouncing ball. It's the entire time since it was voted in, HB7 or voted in to go on the ballot, HB7 has been publicly available, right?
It has been publicly available, yes.
Okay. And so I'm going to read specific language from HB7. Section 35B says, and I quote, property owned by a nonprofit operated exclusively for religious purposes as a house of worship, residential housing for clergy, priests, or nuns, or seminary, or other educational institution training individuals for religious ministry shall be exempt from ad valorem tax pursuant to this section. That's in HB7. It specifically lays out the exemption for that and that it will retain. If anybody went and actually did their homework, and I know I'm raising a point that would be a miracle if every voter actually did this, but if they actually go read the bill and see what's in it, then they'll know what they're voting on. Should they put, whether it's 25 pages or 125 pages, should they put the entire amendment on the ballot for everybody to read? Is that what you're advocating for?
No,
Okay.
but they certainly have an obligation to put on the ballot language that they are modifying and amending the religious tax exemption. They can't just say that they are retaining the religious exemption when in fact they are substantially narrowing it. That is not just not having enough room on a ballot. Rex, that is misleading. That is incomplete. It's inaccurate. Because what impression does a voter get when they look at the ballot, say, we're going to retain the religious exemption? Every voter is going to think, well, they're just leaving that in there. They're not changing anything there. That's going to be okay. We're going to have the same provision in the Constitution. But that's not true. And I think the government has a responsibility on important issues, especially when 90% of the voters are going to be relying on this ballot. Do you expect, Rex, citizens across Louisiana to have to go read a 115-page bill in order to figure out what they're voting on? That's why they have ballot language.
Actually, I do, but that's a pipe dream.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I wish everybody did too. I really do. But that's why we elect representatives. That's why we have legislators who do these things.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all do. We wish that people would take more ownership in reading the details and the fine print and coming to their conclusion. But they unfortunately defer to the politicos, and I will coin all three of us as being politicos. They defer to all of us to basically, I hate to say it, I have people that text me at elections and they say, how do I need to vote? Just tell me from the top to the bottom. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. They want me to just basically tell them how to vote. That's not the way it's supposed to be. I mean, it's supposed to be you educate yourself on all of this. And look, Chris is our friend and we are challenging each other. We're having a debate on this right here in front of God and everybody on live TV, so that hopefully for the benefit of you out there in the public, that you draw a conclusion as to where you stand listening to us talk about these things. Nobody agrees with anybody. I don't agree with my wife 100%. I don't agree with myself 100%. I argue with myself.
And my wife a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Agree?
But so, okay. So back on the debate thing. So Chris, you said earlier, that this constitutional amendment, it was one of the things that I wanted to get back to take issue with you on. You were saying that, the property taxes on the churches, but I found a post, and I don't think it's totally inconsistent with what you're saying right here, right now, but Chris Como, we know Chris Como, he's a Politico, and he made a post somewhere. I don't even remember where this was, but he responded to somebody and said property taxes on churches remain protected in the Constitution and are not affected by Constitutional Amendment number 2. And LeCag, your organization, you said, Chris Como, this is technically true, but the constitutional exemption is actually being narrowed. So, you're agreeing with him, that, it is true that it's still protected. And as I appreciate it, hasn't the author of the bill, not Amade, who was it?
Emerson.
Yeah, Julie Emerson.
Emerson,
Yeah,
right?
Julie Emerson. Is it not true, or is it untrue that Julie Emerson said that, look, if the folks in the churches that feel like that this is shortcoming regarding the exemptions to the churches, that by all means come visit with me, and we will put forward amendments to make it stronger, or whatever protections you feel are needed going forward. Is that not accurate that she did say that?
I don't want to go. I don't know if she said that or not, but I don't think we need to be in a situation where we're amending the Constitution in a way that is not being properly represented to the voters, and then we're just going to go back and fix it later. My response to Chris would be, Chris, why? And nobody's been able to answer this question. If everything is the same, why is the constitutional language with regard to religious exemptions being changed in the Constitution? Is it meaningless? Is it just political theater? If nothing is changing, why is the constitutional language changing? That's the
But
question that I have that nobody
but
can answer.
but Chris, you have to admit, isn't it accurate, or am I wrong? I mean, by all means, slap me, beat me, take a fist, put your knuckles right in the square of my head. That's fine. I can take it. Is it not accurate that we have a lot more than just the churches that are in the Constitution that are protected, that shouldn't be in the Constitution? And isn't this a one size fits all? We're trying to take everything out of the Constitution, and we're trying to change it all in the way we are, or are we trying to fight to stay the same way we've been in Louisiana for the past, I mean, God, since I've been born? I mean,
Yeah,
what are
that's
we
a
what are
great
we
question.
doing here?
That's a great question, Rex. I don't really care whether or not secular nonprofits are taxed by the government. I mean, if I had a choice, I would say that legitimate charitable secular nonprofits should have a property tax exemption. Some people may disagree with that. But you know what we can all agree on is that when someone looks at ballot language, they ought to be able to read the fact that the constitutional tax exemption for every secular nonprofit in Louisiana is being removed from the Constitution so that people can make a decision about whether they want to vote for or against that. But you can't make a decision if it's not on the ballot. That's the problem that I have. Can you imagine the precedent that is going to be set going forward if this misleading, inaccurate, incomplete ballot language is allowed to stand? Can you imagine the legislature? It's going to set a precedent whereby future legislatures, maybe even this one, say, you know what? We can selectively put on ballot language that 90% of the voters in Louisiana are going to look at, that includes some things that are good. We'll leave the bad stuff off. We'll phrase things in a way that's misleading to voters, and we can get away with it. They should not be able to get away with it. I don't care how people vote,
How?
but voters have a right to know what they're voting on, and they don't know
But,
what they're voting
but
on in this case.
well, I don't necessarily agree with you, but how do we do that, Chris? Because look, these things, this is 100. This is 100 something pages. How do we put 100? You can't even legally put 100 pages on a election initiative. You can't do that. It has to be succinct. How do you do that? There's no way to do that.
Okay,
I
well, I'll give you.
you're
A great point you make, and let me do something real quick here. Let me if I can find this thing. Where is it here? Boom, boom. Okay, so here's the ballot language, and this is really important. And you make a great point, Rex. I agree that you can't have 15-page ballot language. You're right. It's supposed to be concise, readable, accurate, unbiased. Those are legal requirements, constitutional requirements. But here's what the ballot language says. That the amendment makes revisions to lower the maximum rate of income tax. It does not. It does not do it. Because what this amendment does is it lowers the cap for individual income tax in Louisiana from 4.7 to 3.7. But the legislature just passed statutorily a 3% cap on individual income tax in Louisiana. So the fact that they're lowering it to 3.7 has no effect on anybody's taxes. That is absolutely misleading on the ballot language. It also says that we're going to provide for a government growth limit. Okay, I get that, and that's fairly clear. I don't know why we're allowing a 5% growth in government every year. I thought we were trying to reduce it, but that's not a huge problem. At least they're saying they're providing a limit on the growth. It says we're modifying operation of certain constitutional funds. This amendment is not modifying operation of constitutional funds. It's deleting two major education funds in Louisiana and transferring those funds over to the Louisiana teacher retirement system. Don't voters have a right to know that educational funds that serve 26,000 students in Louisiana is being deleted from the Constitution? This is not right. This is inaccurate. Provide a permanent teacher salary increase. This amendment does not provide a permanent teacher salary increase. All it does is extend a $2,000 stipend that teachers are already receiving. And this raise
hold up.
on whether local municipalities have enough money to do a raise. That's not. Let me just go to the last one, and then I'll be quiet. And then we already talked about the religious. The ballot language says that they're retaining the religious exemption. They're not. They're changing it. They're modifying it. Voters have a right to know that. So all I'm saying is, Rex, you may vote completely different from the way that I vote. Duke, you may vote completely different from the way that I vote. And that is less important to me than knowing what we are voting on. And you don't have to, this could have been 100 words, but it could have been this ballot language, but it could have been much more accurate as far as what is actually occurring here. That's the point I have.
Well, okay. I want to back up just a little bit. Here's the problem with this argument is I don't know that I find myself disagreeing with you. I agree with you, but at the same time, I realize that as politicos, we get ourselves like honed in like a laser. We get into the tunnel and we're like focusing, right? And we don't always back up and we don't look at the big picture. And I'm wondering on the big picture is, are we biting off? I mean, I would agree. I will contend that we are maybe biting off more than we can chew on the front end than maybe what we should. Maybe I would contend that we haven't done enough to educate. Maybe we haven't done enough to say to the majority of people that, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing that, and this is the cause and effect, and this is the outcome. I would agree with that. And maybe we need to do more education on taking this step or taking that step, but we've been doing the same thing over and over and over again, dating back for the past 30, 40 years. Jindal, Edwards, Foster. I mean, we've been punching the same freaking card year after year after year after year. Along comes a governor who is putting something forward that is making people uncomfortable. Even people within that, like you, that support him are uncomfortable with it, are drawing conclusions that, well, hey, whoa, wait a minute. This is pushing up against my sacred cow, and you're pushing back. I get that. But has what we've done up to this point worked? It hasn't worked. We've been at the bottom of every metric. I mean, you finally got a governor who is pushing against things, and I think we give it a chance. That's what I'm saying. I think we give it a chance. And to get down to something more fine, the teacher pay raise thing is the teacher pay. Am I correct or am I wrong? And I'm deferring to your experience, Chris. Is the current teacher stipend, is it guaranteed, or does it have to be reappropriated by the legislature? Is that accurate or
That's a good
inaccurate?
question. Yeah, that's a good question. And I suspect that it does have to be reappropriated, Duke. But they've been receiving it for several years, and uh, but that's not the primary problem that I have.
So,
It represents that.
but for accuracy, Chris, but for accuracy, a teacher can't a teacher can't say that they have a pay raise guaranteed right now. They can't say that they have that by virtue of the legislature, because as it stands right now, the legislature has to reappropriate it. That's not guaranteed. But
That's a good
in
point.
the
Yeah, you're right.
in if this thing changes, and if we go the other route and we pass these amendments, um, is it guaranteed? You know,
No, no, and that's not represented on the ballot language. The permanent pay raise is dependent upon whether or not the local school boards realize enough savings from the liquidation of these education funds that's going into the Louisiana Teacher Retirement Fund, that they realize enough savings from that to be able to do the permanent teacher pay raise. So it's not guaranteed by any means, and there's actually a possibility that some teachers could actually have a pay reduction. But Rex, look, this is the way Duke and Rex that I look at it. I don't, like I said a little while ago, it doesn't matter to me so much how people vote, but the reality is that we live in a state where the overwhelming majority of voters rely on ballot language for how they vote. And this ballot language is biased, it's incomplete, it excludes important things. And we have to have confidence that official government issued ballot language is accurate when we vote. Because whether you like it or not, and I wish that everybody would go read the 115-page bill, but the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of people are not going to do it. And I think this sets a really dangerous precedent going
do
forward.
do you do you, okay, Chris? Look, we're friends, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna be friends with me after the show,
At,
right?
at least until 8:15 on Tuesday night.
Exactly.
Do you think the governor or the legislature are trying to deceive the public? Do you believe that?
I don't really. What I believe is that, in fact, I'm not going to mention any names. I've heard this on pretty good authority, that a substantial number of legislators, if not a majority of them, didn't even read this bill. This bill was passed in a 2 week special session at sort of at the 11th hour, and
So so
most.
so are you saying, let me reframe it. Let me pose you a question. Are you saying that you think the governor and Julie Emerson slid one by the legislature?
You know what? I don't know. I like Julie. I think Julie has done some really good work in the legislature. I don't really know what the reasoning is behind it, but I believe that there's just a huge disconnect between what this bill actually does and what is represented on this ballot language. But I believe that most legislators didn't read the bill when they voted on it, and I could go
Well,
through
all
20
right.
bills.
I want to
Yeah,
circle back to a specific point. I don't want to keep beating a
yeah,
dead horse. All right,
yeah.
but you mentioned earlier about the income tax rate. So, summarize real quickly what your problem with the income tax rate language on the ballot is versus what it is in reality.
Well, the ballot language says that we're going to increase income, lower the maximum rate of income tax.
Right.
People who read that believe that they're going to be getting tax relief,
Well,
and
maybe, but that's being a little ambiguous because it's lowering the maximum rate. I mean, I'm looking at HB 7 says and I'm quoting, the maximum state individual rate shall not exceed 4.75% for tax years beginning after December 31st of 2021. Is that not correct in HB 7?
wait, 2021.
I'm sorry, or 2025, whatever the deal is. And the cap, there's the deduction, the increased deduction for the seniors. For tax years beginning after December 31, 2025, a person 65 years of age or older shall be entitled to an additional standard deduction equal to the amount applicable for a single individual. Is that not the case in the actual language? Because that matches up with my GoVote app when I
Yeah,
click read
I,
more
I
on
think
Amendment 2.
I think that as far as the seniors go, I do believe that that is largely accurate. Beginning in, they wouldn't realize any savings on that until I think 2027 because it would be for tax year 2026. But I think that that is more palatable to me, and I think you make a very good point there. I think that's more palatable and more accurate, Rex, than some of the other ballot language that I'm seeing. That's far more troubling. Um, like the teacher pay raise and the nonprofit exemptions and the religious exemptions. I think that wouldn't you want to know that on ballot language? I mean, it would take about 8 words to say that they are removing the tax deduction for federal taxes that you've paid. You can reduce that from your state taxes. They're removing that out of the Constitution. I just think people have a right to know that.
I can't disagree with that.
Well, I mean, look, Chris, I think you would agree, and I'm going to bring this thing back up to the 1,000 foot view. I don't think whether we're talking about teachers and whether or not they're getting a permanent rate. I mean, I even saw, one of the, I think a video or a post or something or another where they were saying that, oh, teachers are getting a pay raise by virtue of this amendment too. And I got to tell you, I will admit and concede, I laughed at that. I thought that was funny. Uh, it's politics, somebody's playing words on one side and the other side, but it's really a neutral thing in my perspective. But, uh, you know,
You
older
mean do
folks,
neutral insofar as you don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other about that issue?
well, just the fact of the matter is that if it stays in the legislature, it's got to be reappropriated. It's not money that's guaranteed you're going to continue to have. But paying off, part of your retirement system is junk. And in the first time in that I can recall in the history of Louisiana, we're putting a chunk of money towards your unfunded liability of your retirement system, which is a freaking big deal. That is a big deal. And that is coming by virtue of this trying to do something different. If we can save percents, and we're doing math here, if we can contribute money to decrease the unfunded accrued liability, and then that difference is then applied to maintaining a pay raise that you got legislatively, can you say that that's a pay raise? Yeah, I could see where somebody could say that. Is it technically a permanent pay raise? I could argue that no, that's not a permanent pay raise. So it's semantics, but we're doing something different in the big picture. All of this, we all acknowledge it doesn't matter what demographic. If you're part of the church, if you're part of the Republican Party, if you're part of the Democrat Party, if you're part of the Libertarians or whatever, of the non-denominational or the jackwagon club, I don't care. What we've been doing before now hasn't been working. We have to change. And so you're either, and I hate to say this because I love LeCag, I love Chris, but you're advocating that we continue to do the same. We don't do this. We continue to do the same thing. And I'm saying everything that we've done before now has been broken and it ain't worked. I don't care.
Well, I agree with that. You and I agree on that for sure. But I just think we need to do it the right way. And I don't believe that this is the right way to do it. I'm not opposed to these objectives.
People aren't going to read 100 pages. How do we do it? How do we do it, Chris? People aren't going to read 100 pages.
Well, then be accurate on what they are reading and give people, because we will always have disagreements over issues and even fundamental issues. But the government has a responsibility to be honest and forthright about what we're voting on and what we're voting against. And to me, that is much more fundamental than whether or not you believe in a teacher pay raise or whether you not believe nonprofits have a right to a tax exemption. Be honest, be forthright about what people are voting on. And if you do that, I'm okay with it. But I'm not okay when you exclude things from ballot language, or you mislead about things on ballot language, or you misrepresent things on ballot language. And I'm not saying it's intentional or not intentional. I don't know the situation. All I know is when you compare this 115-page bill with this ballot language, it is woefully deficient. And to the extent that people are going to vote based on what they read on this ballot, there's a real problem here. And I don't want to be setting a precedent here where there's another constitutional amendment that comes down the line a year from now, and this has been allowed to stand, and there's a precedent that's been set where they're not very careful and circumspect about what they're putting on ballots when it comes. We're talking about amending the Constitution here. We're not talking about voting about whether or not you're going to let your kid come, move his curfew up to 10 p.m. from 9 p.m. We are amending the Constitution, and it deserves more meticulousness, and it deserves more care and more accuracy than this. Do y'all realize how long it took to ratify the 1974 Louisiana Constitution? 3 years. And there were 127 delegates to that Constitution, and it took 3 years to do it. And they're trying to amend that Constitution in 2 weeks.
Well, let's call it what it is. So the way I see specifically Constitutional Amendment 2 is an end run to do a constitutional convention or get it started or get the ball rolling without actually having the constitutional convention, right?
Exactly. And if you
So
look back, Rex, if you go back to 1974, the Constitutional Convention came about, and they had it because the voters had very recently before that rejected a whole bunch of proposed constitutional amendments on the statewide ballot. So then they went in and had the Constitutional Convention. Why don't we have a Constitutional Convention where the
Aha!
public can participate?
Now
You
we're
know,
talking.
and go in and really hack at the roots of this thing instead of rushing this process and coming in and half the state's confused about what they're doing and what they're voting on. Let's have a real constitutional convention.
well, I think everybody else agrees with you that we would like to have a constitutional convention. I don't know that I don't think any of us disagree. Do you disagree, Rex?
Oh no, I absolutely am all for a state
Chris,
constitutional
I
convention.
don't think you disagree. I mean, but I don't think that the appetite for that is there with the legislature. I don't know that it would happen. So I think the governor, I mean, y'all can, I don't give a crap what, if anybody likes me or not or whatever. I'm just going to say it like I think. I mean, I think the governor would like to have that as well too. But I think the governor and I think the office down there realizes that there's no way to have a constitutional convention. It's not uh, it's not going to happen. So you're going to take a bite out of it. Did they try to take a bite that was a little bigger than maybe what they should have? You know what? I think I can concede that. I think I can say that, yeah, they tried to take a bigger bite than maybe what they should have. Did they do their homework? I would agree maybe that they didn't do enough homework to inform everybody. But at the end of the day, do we need to change? Yes, we need to change. We all acknowledge we need to change. We acknowledge that our system is broken. At some point, we've got to just trust in somebody and we got to go with it. And I remember when I was a fireman, when I was a fireman, the captain or whoever was the on scene officer, you know, he made the decision. We went with it. If it worked, great. If it didn't work, you know what? It didn't work. And we had to go down with it. I, my viewpoint is we're in the same situation right here. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be flaws, but we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I agree with Chris. Chris has got some good points. I think they're valid, and I think they're good arguments. You know, but I don't think we can continue to do the same thing. That's where I'm
I
at.
agree. I agree with you there, Duke. You and I are 100% agreement on that point. Yeah, we gotta change some things. And speaking of which, I hope that we really do engage in some real Doge efforts here in Louisiana, some meaningful efforts because we are trimming around the edges, and I don't really see a meaningful effort to date to really do on the state level what is being done on the national level. And if you know, we have so much waste and fraud and corruption in our own government here in Louisiana. We need something real similar here. I know the governor, you know, has put together a Doge task force. I hope that we see some real meaningful results from that. You know, but you know, I guess it remains to be seen. But things do
Well,
have to change.
well, Chris, I'm thinking you need to be the co-host on the show because I am getting ripped in the comments, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't mind at all. I mean, you know, some people. Well, let me see here. What Ryan Haygood said. This is like the Bossier
Some
Charter Commission asking us to trust them.
Oh, not just that. He said he was tired of, what did he say? Hey, good, you're tired of this Landry ass kissing session? Or whatever.
Look, I promise you, I have my
Well, look,
criticism.
Duke,
I
that's so good.
I
That's
have my
funny, man.
criticisms of Jeff Landry. I do. I absolutely do. But here's what I do know. I do know that Jeff Landry is saying something that's not popular and that we need to change, and people are pissed off. And you know what that says to me? I don't even have to know the issues. What I know is that it's making people mad, that it may be something we need to consider, because we all have these golden cows that we all cherish, we're all wanting to protect, and we can say, oh, that's not true. We can bloviate all we want, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to whose golden cow is being encroached upon or not. We see it in the federal government with Doge and USAID and all that. I mean, you know, the people who have their issues or money or funding or whatever, they're the people that are screaming the most. Jeff Landry ain't giving a damn. He's saying, let's change something. Let's try it. If it don't work, I can tell you, and I think Chris would even say this. I think Chris would admit this. And I don't know what Chris is going to say. I'm going to say this. If we try it and it fails, I think Jeff Landry would say, hey, you know what? I tried it. It didn't work. Blame me. I think he would say that. Do you think that, Chris?
No.
You don't? Okay.
No, I don't.
Fair enough.
I think, we're in the legislature almost every day during session. And, we see a lot of things that go on there. And we have a number of very good conservative leaders in the legislature. But unfortunately, we have too many rhinos there. And we still have too many who make decisions based upon what is in their best political interests rather than what's in the best interest of Louisiana citizens. And we see it all the time. And I don't think it's going to do anything to help build trust in our leadership when the voters cannot look at ballot language and know that it accurately represents what is actually being done, whether you agree or disagree, or whether you just don't care. I think that is a fundamental obligation of the government. And if I have a sacred cow here, I guess that would be it. And it's more fundamental than any of these issues that we're talking about. People have a right to know what they are voting on. And this doesn't get it done.
Let me beat this dead horse one more time. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to have a constitutional amendment that lets the churches have complete 100% exemption, even Islam, even non-denominational in the Constitution. That's what it needs to be, and it needs to delineate teacher pay raises in the Constitution. That is what's agreeable to you and LeCag?
I don't. My problem is more fundamental than any of that, Duke. My issue and our issue.
Yeah, but those are the arguments, Chris, that's being made to defeat changing the Constitution is based on religion and based on the teacher pay raises, and also the over 65, exempt or tax exemption for 65. So those are the three things, primary things. So if I'm asking you, if we say, okay, any denoted religion has 100% exemption in the Constitution, if teacher pay raises are memorialized in the Constitution, and if 65 and older, tax exemptions increased, whatever the percentage is, I don't know what it is, are memorialized, written in the Constitution, not statute, but Constitution, would that satisfy you?
Is what you just said hypothetically consistent with what is that accurate? Is that what the legislation actually does?
Would that solve your opposition?
What would solve my opposition would be to know that voters in Louisiana can read proposed constitutional amendments on a ballot and know that they accurately represent the changes that are actually going to be made. That's
We
what would
can we
satisfy
can
me.
we can never get there. You know that. This is a
Why?
vicious circle. We can't put 100 pages. We're
You
never
don't have to
ever.
put 100 pages. You don't have to put 100 pages, Duke. All you have to say is that this constitutional amendment modifies the religious tax exemption. And that would prompt people to say, well, I wonder how the religious exemption, tax exemption, is being changed. And then that may go and prompt them to go maybe look at the bill. But when you put on the ballot, we're just retaining the religious exemption when you're not, when you're narrowing it, that's a problem. That's a
We're never going to
problem.
be
Ma-
able.
I'm surprised, honestly, Duke. I'm a little
We're
surprised.
never.
All
We're
right,
never.
all right. I've got
Surprised you don't
I've got a
understand that.
solution to this, and the solution is simple math. The math doesn't lie. So let's
We're
say that
never going to be
this.
able to change.
No, this is very very simple. Let's say that this bill was 120 pages, just for even numbers. We should have 12 bills or 12 amendments on the next ballot, 10 pages each. See, problem solved. Let's see them get 12 bills through the legislature and all in agreement, and have those bills on there, and at 10 pages each, they can probably get a pretty good synopsis on the ballot as to what the amendment's about. See, problem solved. It's math.
I've got a better solution. If they would just put Chris and me in charge and let us, me and him, just go in a room and resolve this, we could fix it. We could do it
We could
all.
do it. We
Cut
could do it.
everybody
We could
out.
do it in an hour, Duke. We could
Yeah.
do
No
it. We could do it.
doubt.
We could do it in an hour.
No
No
doubt.
doubt. But I think they need to. There is a constitutional requirement that says if you're not amending an entire article, which they're not, they're just amending part of it. Uh, you have to you have to focus on one object. You can only have one object in an amendment, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are confused. I think because this proposed amendment addresses so many different issues that it's almost people are put in a position where they have to go in and say, you know what, I really want to vote for this teacher pay raise, assuming it's a reality. But I really don't want to narrow the religious exemption for the churches. So it's kind of a catch-22, and I think that's one of the reasons why when you propose amendments like this, you should focus on one issue at a time.
Right.
You don't want to put people in that situation. But I agree with you, Duke, 100%. We got to make some serious changes in our state, and we can't keep doing things the same old way. I agree with you. I just respectfully disagree that this is the right way to go about it.
Yeah, and I will concede that you have studied this a whole lot more than me, and I will concede that my view is from a 1,000-foot view looking at it, and what I basically say is that any change, and maybe to a fault when I say that any change from the status quo is a change that we should embrace, and that may be a faulty view. It may be. I will concede that. But I think that we have to do things in a different way. And Ryan Haygood made another good point. And I will read it. He says, like, for an example, the Bossier Charter Commission is for term limits, except it doesn't limit terms. Technically correct, but complete BS. It's true. It's just like in Bossier City. In Bossier City, we have a candidate, Vince Maggio, who is saying that he's for term limits. But the reality is he's not for term limits at all. In fact, the people petitioned not once, but twice, over 3,000 signatures in the city to get a proposition put on the ballot to affect term limits on the councilman in Bossier City. And what did the city council, including Vince Maggio, do? They voted against putting the proposition on the ballot every single stinking time simply for the people to vote on it. Every single time they voted against it. So I get what Ryan Haygood is saying. I mean, I don't 100% agree, but I do agree. I mean, I'm all over the place. But the reality is, at the end of the day, we have to just let the people decide. We put out the information, just like Chris. We've challenged each other on the issues regarding teacher pay raises, regarding, 65 and older, and whether they're getting, an increase in their deductions or not, whether or not, uh, I don't know. I'm just saying, we're putting it all out there. People have to draw a conclusion, and at the end of the day, it's up to all of y'all to vote and decide which way we're going to go. Either you want to
Yeah.
change or you want to stay the same. That's the bottom line. And people like Chris and people like us, all we can do is get on here, yap about it. It's what you do. It's what you
All right.
derive from what we're putting out there, right?
So let's start
Yeah.
wrapping it up with this. Let's put some bets on what the election results are going to be for the amendments.
Oh,
Think they're
good
going to
grief.
pass or fail?
Okay.
That's not fair to us. Chris has a perspective across the whole state.
Well, I think, but y'all, y'all have a pretty good grip on what's going on. I think constitutional amendment one. I don't think people are as fired up about that one. I don't believe it belongs anywhere in the Constitution, but I think that probably will pass. Um, my gut feeling, and again, I could be 100% wrong. I've been wrong before. Is that I think constitutional amendment 2 likely will fail because there are a significant group of conservatives in Louisiana and pastors and who happen to be weirdly aligned with people who are more liberal and more progressive, who are opposed to constitutional amendment for very different reasons. And if you look at some of the early voting, John Couvillon said that he has never seen the numbers from Democrats going to vote on these amendments as high as they are now. So I think that, again, for different reasons, I think many of them are going to vote no across the board on the amendments. And again, I think there's a significant number of Republicans who are also going to vote no. So, but look, I could be wrong. I do know this. I know that they are the governor and most of the legislators are pulling out all the stops on this to get. I mean, I get a mailer every single day on Constitutional Amendment 2 supporting it.
Really? Really?
Yeah, I really do. Every single, every other day, we get something. We get the text blasts, and so I could be wrong, but I, and maybe my preference is clouding
Chris,
my objectivity
where,
here. But I think it could fail.
what part of the state are you at, Chris?
Baton Rouge.
You're in Baton Rouge. You get mail every day. See, I mean, like, we're in the Northwest. We're in Bossier, Shreveport area. We don't get any mail. I mean, I don't know that there's been any other discussion about the constitutional amendments other than our show. I haven't. Rex, am I speaking out of turn?
I don't think so, but it seems like I may have gotten one or two mailers on them from some packs. I think I got one today. I'd have to go through the mail and see, but I mean, I didn't really pay attention to it other than, I just pay attention to the designs. But I think I do remember getting one that was pro amendments. I'll go back and see.
Yeah,
make sure.
We haven't gotten anything. Everything we've gotten here has been pro. So, but I want to ask y'all something because I've been reading about this council race that y'all have up there, and that thing is pretty hot for a small race. I mean, I'm only interested in it a little bit because I'm from up in Shreveport. It's where I grew up, Shreveport Bossier area, and this is it's kind of a hot little race up there.
Now,
You know,
which race are you talking about? Are you
I'm
talking
talking about
about
this
the dip?
Vincent with Ruth Pope Johnson and Maggio.
Well,
Oh yeah.
yeah, there's a
Well,
You know,
lot of money being spent on this race from one particular candidate. There's no doubt about that.
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Just from what I've read about it, I mean, I don't think there's any comparison. I mean, if I could vote up there, I'd be voting. I'd be voting for Johnson. I mean, particularly when I read about Maggio, not being honest about where he really stands on the term limits and trying to act like he's a MAGA Republican when he's really not. He's just an institutional guy, an establishment man. I'm going to tell everybody in LeCag and everybody that I know up in Shreveport that or in Bossier area, if they can vote in this race, they need to vote for her for Ruth, and that's absolutely what I would do. I just don't think there's any comparison. I think Vincent Maggio, from what I've read, he is a textbook example of why our system is so dysfunctional, and why we are in the position that we're in. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I know where I would be if I were up there. And if I got, if anybody that I know in Bossier is, I'm going to be telling them to go vote for Ruth on the 29th.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting that you point all that out. So you're in Baton Rouge and you've taken notice of the race in Bossier. I mean, look, it's no secret that the Maggio campaign is 50 to 100,000, and the Ruth Pope Johnson campaign is $3,000. I mean, it's a David and Goliath situation, and the Maggio campaign is out there saying that they support term limits when they voted against term limits every freaking time they could vote against term limits. And
Well, no, I got to correct you, Duke, though. He did vote for putting the Charter Commission's version on, and finally for the petition version of term limits under threat of malfeasance. There's that.
but for some
Does
reason, yeah, for some reason that's not being advertised. He's not putting that on his mail piece because he's under court order.
Yeah,
The people are just,
exactly.
yeah. Why? How is it? Do y'all have that problem, Chris, down there? I mean, I'm just wondering. Do politicians in South Louisiana, do they like not put the court orders to vote for certain things or do their job as an elected official? Do they not advertise that?
I don't.
Or is that just,
I don't know, man. I just think y'all take it to a whole new level up there, especially in this race. But no, I just think it's very, very interesting. When we were talking earlier, Luke, we were talking about the importance of local politics, and government really should be local. The government that's closest to the people is really what affects the people the most on a day in and day out basis. And that's why I think your race is so important. And not just that race, but any other local race, because these council people, they've got significant power. People forget that. They control a significant amount of money. They've got great power. So you should never underestimate the importance of races like this, and I hope everybody gets out there and votes on the 29th.
I don't know about you, Chris, and I mean, Rex, I really don't even know about you, but I've always held, segueing off what you said, Chris, I've always held the perspective that the local races, like what you're saying, is actually more important than even, let's say, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. That everybody thinks that it starts from the top to the bottom. I really think that it originates from the bottom to the top. I think it's more important at the local level than it is at any level, and that guides where we're going. in totality. And in this race, for example, I will, and I know how egregious you're going to find this, Chris. I know this. I'm going to say something, and you liable to just, what is the worst movie scene you've seen where a character just shrivels away? And maybe it's the Avengers where what was it, the guy just dissipated in the air, disappeared. This may be what happens to Chris here. What would you say if I told you that Republicans were out putting up Democrat signs against Republicans? What would you think about that?
I would that disgusts me. It absolutely disgusts me. Uh, who are the Republicans out there? Are you telling me there are Republicans out putting up signs for who?
In our Bossier City Council races, there are Republicans. In fact, the campaign of one Vince Maggio is out putting up signs of the Democrat candidate Lee Jeter against Chris Smith and Creighton Cochran, two Republican at-large candidates. The Vince Maggio campaign is out putting up Democrat signs and supporting a Democrat against two Republican candidates for at-large city councilmen. And at the same
yeah.
and at the same time,
I hope every single voter knows that.
Well, they're advocating that they're Trump, Mike Johnson, conservative Republicans in that district. Is that not amazing?
It's amazing, and it's amazing, and it's disgusting. And I hope that the Republicans in that district know that, because it's very revealing, very revealing. You know, but I've got. Yeah, go ahead.
I will admit that I am supporting a Democrat in this race. In not in this race, but in a race in the Bossier City Council, I am supporting a Democrat.
Well, but there's a specific reason for that, though.
There's a specific reason. I'm supporting a Deborah Ross against an independent Jeff Darby, who has been an elected Bossier City Councilman for 36 years. You heard that right. 36 years. He's been an independent because he's been able to say, hey, I'm middle of the road. I'll get Republican votes and I'll get Democrat votes. And he's good old boy. It's not Republican or Democrat. It's good old boy politics. That's what it is. It isn't about left or right. But you have a Democrat. She actually went out, collected signatures for term limits. She supported Republican ideals. She is conservative in nature, more so than the independent Jeff Darby. So there's no Republican in the race. I'm supporting a Democrat against the independent. Yes, I am. But in the race of a Republican against a Republican, and one Republican in the race is supporting a Democrat who advocated against Donald Trump, advocated against, limited government. And one of those Republican candidates is, out promoting this guy who was against limited government and Donald Trump. How do you reason that? I don't get it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Is that what the Maggio campaign's doing? The Maggio campaign is doing that.
Yes, they're doing that. And they've done it right here at the end of the race to where there's not enough time to completely get the message out there. And there's a lot of Republicans that have already cast a vote for Maggio. And, he's not, he's still out there saying that he's even saying, Chris, he's even saying that he's pro-term limits. He voted against term limits 10 times in Bossier City, but he's saying he supports term limits. And then they turn around and calling Rex and I liars on his record. Can you believe that?
Well, I mean, it's documented that he was against term limits. It's not like you're just making this stuff up.
Rex, can you pull the video of his position? Can you pull that
Which
up real quick?
which videos?
Where he's on video, Chris Alexander. You have nothing to do with Bossier politics. You're outside of this. But this guy on video said, I'm against term limits. He's on video saying it. And if Rex can pull it up fast enough, he can play it. And now he's putting mail pieces out and he's saying, I support term limits. That's what he's telling all the Republicans in the district, is that he supports term limits. And I'm just wondering, from a person on the outside, a political wonk like yourself, what does that say, in your words? What does it say about a person who says, I'm against this, but then they say to mail to an election, they say this? You got it ready, Rex?
I got it.
You were against first, and then I think your last vote was for term limits.
I'm not with that at the council. Let me tell you, I'm against term limits. I'm not with that at the council. Let me tell you, I'm against term limits.
Okay. Did you hear that, Bart? I'm against term limits.
Yes.
That was Vince Maggio. He said, what did you hear him say?
I heard him say, I'm against term limits.
That's right. But would you believe that he has put multiple mail pieces out to the public in this district to say he supports term limits? What do you think that he's telling the public?
I think he's lying.
Well, even Aaron McCarty on Keel News had some questions about him claiming that he's for term limits and supporting term limits. She was trying to get him on Keel Radio, but he apparently was non-responsive to her request.
To my knowledge,
I take it he hasn't really done many interviews and hasn't really answered many questions in a public forum. Is that fair?
That would be fair.
He's done no interviews, to my knowledge. He won't answer any questions. He is the quintessential stealth candidate, and he believes, I think, that he's going to buy this election. And he's going to tell people he supports term limits because he knows that overwhelmingly 80% of the district supports term limits.
Is that the issue up there? If, let's just say hypothetically, that 90% of the people who are going to vote believed that he was lying about his position on term limits and was actually opposed to term limits, with that, you're saying that would swing a lot of votes?
Well, that is the paradox. I mean, and that is the thing. That is the thing in the back of politicos like yourself and like us, that normal people, when you hear a person say that I am opposed, you hear their words on video. They say, I oppose term limits, and then they send you a mailer that says, or run a TV ad. In this race, they're running a TV ad. It is a city council race with a total registered voter total of 6,500 voters. You're running TV ads. Think about that. TV ads in a market of 6,500 people. And you're saying you support term limits when you're on video saying you don't support term limits. I mean, for people like us, that drives us nuts. I mean, if a public goes out and votes for a guy and elects a guy who is in one breath saying one thing and in another breath saying another thing, what does that say about us as a society? You're advocating on the constitutional amendments that people should read 100 pages. And I hate to kind of mix this, but if we can't get people to break down the simplicity of a person making one comment that I'm against term limits, and then in a month or two later saying I support term limits in mail, and we can show and prove that they said one thing and they're doing another, I got to tell you, I'm kind of like, maybe I need to go jump off a bridge right now, because there's no way we get out of this. We're over with. We're done. Stick a fork in
Yeah,
us.
that's a big deal. That's a big deal right there.
It is a big
Yeah.
deal. And I got to tell you, I'm floundering around like a fish out of water here on this. I really am. I mean, I hope Bossier does the right thing in this race, and you call a spade, but if they don't, boy, I got to tell you, this just casts a reflection on everything. I don't know that I can't check out of all of politics after this. I don't know. I got to tell you, I'm struggling with this one.
Yeah. It's you know what, Duke, I think your issue is even more fundamental than whether or not he's for or against term limits is the fact that he's lying about it. And I know you well enough to know that you don't like a liar, and whether they're in politics or not. And I think it's the lying, it's the hypocrisy that I think really cuts you on this, and that he's trying to sell a lie, and trying to get voters to believe in a lie. So and it just shows a tremendous amount of disrespect for the people that he wants to serve. He's wanting to serve these people in an important position up there, yet he doesn't think enough of them to tell them the truth about where he stands, and that maybe he had another position before and now he's changed his position. It just shows blatant disrespect, and you want these people to vote for you and you can't even tell them the truth. I mean, that's the problem. I think that's what really gets you, Duke, more than the position on the issue itself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and at the end of the day, I'm looking at the comments and I see people saying, here's the thing. You folks, all of you out there, I mean, Chris, Rex, me, we're doing this. I mean, we're not making no money doing this. We're not getting rich. We're not whatever. Uh, the most expensive thing we got in this is our time. I mean, that's bottom line. That's what we're doing here. And we're expending our time for the benefit of you to be able to hopefully become more informed. And it's only of benefit if you take the time to educate yourself on all of these issues. Chris and I may disagree on constitutional amendments. Look, I don't think we disagree. I'm challenging. I'm playing the bad cop. I'm challenging him a little bit. We'll vote how we'll vote, but you've got the responsibility to take the initiative to study these things. Same as Vince Maggio. Either he supports term limits or he don't. And there's video that says where he says he doesn't support term limits, and now he's sending you mail pieces where he says that he does support term limits. You have to do the work to study the issues and educate yourself, and you have to vote appropriately. That's why we do what we do. LeCag, they do what they do to try to inform you as the best they can possibly inform you on issues they focus on. The Louisiana legislature and things happening in Baton Rouge. Rex and I, we focus on things in Bossier Parish. That's what it's about. You're here because you want to learn, study it. You got to take it a little further than just us talking. You got to do that. And if you do that, you will make the most informed decision that you can possibly make. And I don't know. I don't know where the hell I was
Exactly
going with that.
right.
I was just going.
That's 100% right. And we just have to remember that, you know, JFK said that, we're the boss. We are the boss, and we're going to get the government that we demand and we deserve, for good or for bad, for better or for worse. And, we all have an obligation to participate, because in the final analysis, the most important thing we can do is make sure that the country that we leave, and the state that we leave, and the districts that we leave, the parishes we leave, are parishes in which, freedom exists and liberty exists and good government exists for our children and our grandchildren. That's not a cliche,
And,
man. We're not going to be here. We're not going to be here forever. And we have an obligation, and we're going to be answerable for the extent to which we left this world and this country and state and region a better place than we found it. We're going to be held accountable for that. And we just have to remember that.
that is
I agree.
exactly right. That couldn't have been said better. Hey, Chris, what is the you guys have a show? What you do that in the morning times? I don't know how y'all do that. I can't get. How many cups of coffee do you have every day?
Usually a pot.
I could not do that. But you guys have a really good blog. I say blog. I mean, I was informed that we do a narrow cast, and I had no idea that actually what we do technically is truly a narrow cast. I thought it was an insult at first. But you guys do a podcast, and it's really good. And I encourage folks to go and listen to you guys. It doesn't mean you have to agree with you, but you hear the counterpoints. I mean, I see in our comments, there's people that I know right now. Um, I'm going to describe them as being leftists in our comments. We appreciate the fact that they're here. And, you know, what I find is that as we go through these shows, we end up having dialogue where we find common ground between both people on the right and people on the left. We find common agreement, and the more we talk about things, the more we find we actually agree on more things than we disagree on. So I would encourage
Yeah.
people to go to LeCag. What times can give the
Oh,
spiel, Chris?
well, our advocacy group, guys, is lacag.org. lacag.org. That's Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group. And anybody can reach me at Chris, CHRIS, at lacag.org. If you have a legislative issue or something you want to talk about, because we're on top of all that stuff. And our podcast is a different entity. It's called The State of Freedom. And we really enjoy that. That's freedomstate.us, freedomstate.us. We talk about legislative issues. We have national figures on, and we have a great time doing it. But it's obviously constitutionally conservative in orientation, and we're spreading the voice of freedom and liberty just like y'all are, and we're enjoying doing it. But I want to tell y'all before I go that I really enjoy listening and to y'all's show and following it. Not only because I'm from up that way, but also because the issues that you address are very, very important. And I love the fact that what I really love is the fact that y'all have no problem expressing how you feel about things in a way that is unmistakably clear, and you have real convictions, and I love that. I love the fact that you stand for something, and your show stands for something, and and I'm sure you've made some adversaries. You probably have a lot of people who don't like you. Join the crowd. But Winston Churchill said, if you look back on your life and you've made some enemies, good for you. That means you've done a damn thing. So I'm proud of you guys.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come on tonight and on the podcast before as well. And always appreciate your perspective, even if we don't 100% agree. Like you said, you speak your mind and you stand for what you believe in and believe in what you stand for.
I appreciate you guys, man. Y'all keep up the good work, and I'm going to be hoping and praying for Ruth Pope Johnson in your race up there. Hope she wins it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And look, you guys go look up the CAG, and by all means, I mean, you guys should listen in on what they're cooking down there. They have their finger on the pulse of the legislature. They will keep you informed. So we encourage y'all all to go do that.
God bless you, boys, man. Y'all have a great evening.
All right. See you later. Thanks, Chris.
Take care.
So one of my friends, you may have saw that. One of my friends says, "Leftist Duke?" ? Well, okay, don't hate me for it.
Yeah.
Look, you know what's funny is, okay, so me and my leftist friend, we can't talk politics, but yet he's here, and that's okay. That's okay, because we agree on this show to disagree with people. Look, we acknowledge that we have a differing opinion, and we don't. It's our show, but it doesn't mean that a leftist opinion is not welcome. They're welcome here.
We've
We've
said that from day one. Yeah,
day one. I mean, okay, not everybody's biblical, but to our attorney friend, iron sharpens iron.
Yes. Yeah. And look, I want to say also, just to clarify, my mention of the flying spaghetti monster religion does not mean I agree with the flying spaghetti monster religion or the internet sensation that it was. I'm just using that as an illustration. So I want to make sure that I make that clear.
Well, I just got to say that when you started talking about spaghetti, I quit listening right out of the gate. So I ain't heard nothing else. I don't know about everybody else. Maybe they were listening, but I wasn't listening. I kicked it out of there. And I got to tell you, we went so far off track. Amendment 1, Amendment 2. We didn't even get to Amendment 3 and 4. I don't even know what the hell Chris thinks about Amendment 3 and 4.
Well, we
didn't talk about it.
We'll hopefully get to the city council shenanigans here in just a minute. It won't take long, but I got to say, you kind of led him on into a trap, because you said we're going to talk about all four, and you just went right down the rabbit hole of amendment number 2 pretty quickly and pretty sneakily.
But in all fairness, I told him up front. I told him before I invited him on the show, I said, I'm going to confront you. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to. I told him up front. I gave him heads up. It wasn't a surprise. Whether I agreed with him or not, I told him, I'm challenging you. So if you're on the left and if you're on the right, you have to know I was playing both bad cop, good cop. I was playing every cop. I told him up front. It was no surprise to him.
All right, let's get through this city council section here for just a minute, and then I'm going to get some dinner here in a little bit. All right, and clean up my mess on our dining room table with all this electronics equipment.
What are we looking at here? You got something pulled up on the screen, and it eerily looks like those fine city council seats in Bossier City that they're fixing to pay an exorbitant amount of money to recover and redo, when there's not a damn thing wrong with them.
There's not, except they need to have heated seats in there. That's all I'll say, but that's a whole other point. This is an interesting discussion. I got phone calls, text messages, I don't know, maybe got some emails about it, just as soon as this had happened at the city council meeting, that I needed to make sure and pay attention to the city council meeting. I was watching the meeting while on the phone with some clients, but this is pretty interesting.
Okay, I gotta stop you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Rex. I mean, see, you're progressing to be this professional social media guy doing all this thing, and I'm maintaining our amateur status.
Okay.
But I'm looking back in the comments here, and I see a comment where somebody said, And let me find it real quick. And they said, y'all are assuming we know what you mean by leftist types. Okay. I digress. I get it.
Leftist types.
So when I say, and look, they're right. They're right. Maybe not everybody knows when people talk about leftists and us politicos, when we say leftists, we know that it's people that are liberal, that are on the left side of politics. When we say leftists, that's what that means. We just automatically know that, and we assume that everybody knows that. But the truth is, maybe not everybody does know that. That's probably correct. So a leftist is probably somebody that supports George Soros. They probably support that the government should be bringing all the illegals into the country, that even the gangs from Mexico that Trump's deporting to whatever third world country and that the Supreme Court is objecting to. Yeah, if you're opposed to Trump on kicking them all out of the country, that group, you're probably a leftist. Yeah, that's what that means. I'm
Fair
sorry.
enough.
Is that good enough? Is that good enough? I'll stop. Okay, carry on.
Fair enough. Okay.
Fair enough. Carry on.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. And
You
for
started-
anybody
you started this show. You
For
started
anybody-
this show, Jack.
for anybody that may be considered a leftist or a liberal that is watching the show, look, we make no bones about where we stand on the political spectrum. And actually, and I've said this many times, I tend more towards the libertarian side of things on many respects. But look, yeah, you do as well. I mean, we agree on most things, not everything. But look, for those of you that may be on the left-leaning side of things, you're welcome on the show too, or welcome in the comments. You might get some pushback from us, but we welcome the opinions.
Okay. Sobo Live and West Marriott are taking the position that not everything George Soros is bad. See, we're having lots of revelations here. I had no idea.
Wow.
That's an epiphany to me.
Well,
Who knew?
Who knew? Okay. I don't even know where to go with that one. There's so many directions to go. The city council meeting.
Bobby Crenshaw says right of the Attila Hunt is not a true conservative. I am just learning all kinds of shit tonight. Pardon my French. I just had no idea.
Yeah. Well, would you like to learn? I am trying to steer us in this direction because we have 0 notes tonight.
Yes,
folks, if you haven't noticed.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I will shut up now. Go ahead. Carry on.
Speaking of George Soros type initiatives and giveaways, did you know that apparently the city council is paving all business driveways, at least along Benton Road? And if I remember right, Acadiana Mortgage is on Benton Road.
Well, Acadiana Mortgage is on Benton Road, but I had no idea that George Chandler Soros was paving parking lots along Benton Road. I had no idea. Where do I apply?
Well, hold on just a minute. Let's let the discussion at the city council clarify this because, we've been accused of lying all the time, even though we literally play the video, show the quotes and all that. But let's let the city council tell us. So here we go.
Oh, you mean the lie that Vince Maggio said, I don't support term limits. That lie. We're on video that we played earlier tonight. And if we need to play it for anybody else that wants to say that we're lying right here on live video for the world to see, anybody wants to challenge us, you're welcome to on live. You can challenge. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, they're not going to do that, right? They're just going to say that we lie outside of here, but you're welcome to come on right now and challenge us and say where we lied. Anybody?
Yeah.
Vicky
Bueller.
Whitman. Oh, it's interesting that you say that, Rex. I was thinking about that. So the Whitmans are Jim Whitman. Marshall Jim Whitman was riding around in Bossier City, putting up Lee Jeter signs, the Democrat against Chris Smith and Creighton Cochran for at-large city councilman. And yet tonight they were at Republican Women of Bossier cheering on the Republican Party and Donald Trump.
Well, I wonder if they had Lee Jeter as a guest speaker at the Republican Women of Bossier meeting.
I don't know. I'm dying to know if they brought Lee Jeter, the Democrat, former NAACP guy, if they brought Lee Jeter to the Republican Women of Bossier. I'm just dying to know. All you Republicans in Green Acres Place, Brownlee, Old Green Acres Place, I mean, are you cool with your conservative, limited government Republican city marshal Jim Whitman and Vicky Whitman, pro Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, Republican, conservative, and limited government people promoting an anti-Trump Republican Democrat Lee Jeter? I mean, you voted for that, right? I mean, you're Republicans. What am I missing here? I don't know.
That's pretty much it.
How do I resolve this? I need help. I don't understand. So for all of you in Old Green Acres and New Green Acres and Brownlee, all of you Republicans, and all of you who have friends in Green Acres Place, Old Green Acres, and Brownlee, please call your identified Republicans and ask them, how is it that the Maggio campaign can be pro-Trump Mike Johnson Republicans, but yet they're supporting Democrats, Lee Jeter, NAACP, anti-Trump against Chris Smith and Clayton Cochran. I can't even pronounce his name. And Rex, I gotta go take it a step further. Now, recently this week, there was this post out there about people attacking Vince's family. I got to tell you, that pisses me off. I'm mad.
How dare anybody attack Vince's family? Now, I got to say, though. Well,
did you attack Vince's family? Did you attack Vince's family?
Only if he considers Robert Berry his family. And I didn't really attack Robert Berry. Again, we just stated facts. And our good friend Morgan did a deep dive podcast on the Robert Berry situation. So I guess if he considers Robert Berry family, then I'm guilty of attacking his family with his family's own record being Robert Berry. Yeah,
but who the hell does that? I mean, that is like wrong. That is wrong. That's almost like supporting a Democrat against a Republican.
Well, it's almost like supporting a Democrat who is literally running against, isn't Creighton Cochran like Vince's real family-in-law or some way?
Oh, whoa, Rex. You're touching sacred cows. You can't attack Vince Maggio's family. I mean, by gosh.
I'm not attacking it. He's literally doing it by supporting Lee Jeter.
Okay, Horatio.
I don't know how stupid this guy really is.
Horatio, yes, you're right, gummies. The only question is how many gummies? How many is being consumed here? Yep, that's right. No, Rex. Here's what is the damning thing about that. So all of these, okay, I got to digress here because I was fixing to say something that was totally inappropriate.
It's our show. You can say what you want to. Remember, no takebacks. No takebacks.
I can name 3 family cases of the Maggio family where Vince Maggio has turned their back on their family members. So I don't give a damn if you say, oh, you're attacking their family. Ain't nobody in the opposition to the Vince Maggio campaign attacked their family. That is nothing more than a feeble attempt to try to gain victim card favor, just like Juliana Parks in this BS crap that they attacked Wes Marriott on. That's the same damn card. It's almost like Juliana Parks is running his campaign. It's the same thing. She played the same victim card thing. It's the same damn
Well,
thing.
look, it's
It's
right
the
up
same
Richard
thing.
Ray. It's right up Richard Ray's alley too. He likes to try to lean over to that victim status as well. They're all the same.
But look, I know that he turned his back on 3 of his own damn family members. And if he's talking about people attacking his family, I mean, the only damn people that has attacked his family, if he was standing with his family, he would have helped those other families. He didn't help them. He hung them out to dry. He didn't do a damn thing for them. He didn't
All
do a
right,
damn
so
thing for them.
here's the challenge for the Bossier watchers out there. Go back and find any post or any video that we've shared where we attacked one of Vince's family members. Again, with the exception if he considers Robert Barry some long-lost family. But find one instance of that. Just one.
Okay. We're not going on notes here. We're just going wild and free. We're jackballing here, right?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
sure.
So it was brought to my attention that this week that 3 individuals were riding around in the district, in District 5, and to my leftist friend in the comments, you're like, oh, hey, yeah, that's good for a Republican. You're going out soliciting the Democrat things. I got news for you, Democrats. If you think they will use you like, oh boy, I almost said something that probably would have got our show kicked off. He's going to use you as a Democrat because he needs your votes. But the fact that Jim Whitman, a seated Republican official in the Republican Party, and Robert Barry are out, putting up signs for a Democrat, what does that tell you about the levels that they will sink to? They got no limits to where they'll sink. And if, again, to any Maggio people, y'all have called us liars. The people who have opposed Vince, you've called us liars. You have Rex's number. You have my number. I don't care. You are welcome to come on here in front of God and the whole world right here, live on the show. You can confront us. Tell me that I'm lying about anything we have said. By all means, you're welcome to come on the show and challenge us. Come on. If we're lying, you're saying to people that lies are being told. We're sitting right here live. We challenge you to come on here live. Juliana, you're in there. I mean, all of y'all. Robert Barry, if you want to come on and you want to debate, you want to challenge and say that we're lying. Rex, what else do I have to do?
I really don't know, but like Miss Ann says in the comments, his record is fair game.
Well, apparently it's not. If you in the Vince Maggio race, you can't debate him. You can't question him. You can't challenge his record.
Oh, yes, you can. You just can't do it without him whining incessantly about it and crying about it on social media. That was the most pathetic, weak post I've ever seen a candidate do that he just made. Well, a day or two ago, whenever it was. It's pathetic.
No, it's pathetic from my perspective, but the problem is that, look, there's only 100 of us. There's only 100 of us. And I mean, there's 6,500 people approximately in District 5. 6,500. And there's only 100 of us. We're openly challenging to the people that are opposed to Ruth Pope Johnson. She's agreeable to debate at any time, anywhere. Can y'all tell me any place that Vince Maggio is willing to debate? To the people that support Vince Maggio, to the ass hat, and I'm going to say his name, to the ass hat with chasing aces that was so chicken shit to come up behind a car wanting to video me. You don't have to video me, bro. If Chasing Aces wants to come on here and debate right now, Chasing Aces, you that got the port commission or whatever to put your project up, if you want to come on the show right now on live TV and debate, come on. Or else you can sit out there in obscurity and you can lie and you can say that, oh, they're liars and yeah. Let's do it right here in front of God of everybody. If we're telling a lie, and oh, by the way, I mean, let's not just leave it at Randy Rogers and Chase's agent. Thank you, Ryan Haygood. Let's not just leave it at them. Mayor Tommy Chandler of Bossier City. You know, the same Mayor Tommy Chandler who is paving private businesses in Bossier City's parking lots while people of Brownlee, Green Acres, and Old Green Acres, while your streets and your sidewalks are caving in and your roads are like turning to shit, you've got businesses that are getting favorable treatment in Bossier.
Wait a minute.
Maybe
is this another lie, Duke? Are you making this up?
Something tells me if I'm lying, why don't they come on here and challenge me? Mayor Tommy Chandler, Charles Jacobs, Richard Ray.
Well, wait. We have a sitting city councilman, affectionately known as the bull in the china closet, who actually says it for us. Let's listen.
Well, let's let it play.
I've got one other question for you. Not really to do with this, but I'm just going to go ahead and ask it. The concrete, I've gotten calls from several other business owners on Benton Road. I was not aware that we were repairing and putting in complete new parking lots at two businesses on Benton Road. I never saw it come before the council. Anything. So now I've got other business owners calling and wanting to know where their parking lot is.
Sure.
Can you tell me where that came from?
I would prefer to defer that to Mr. Charles and Richard.
Okay, hold up.
I bet he would like to defer that.
Wait, stop it. Stop it. So the city contracted engineer just said he's going to refer it to the city
lawyers.
Attorney and the assistant city attorney on construction projects within the city of Bossier. So while everybody in Green Acres Place, so all of you asshats that voted for Vince Maggio, so for all of you asshats that are carrying his water, I mean, you need to defer to the city attorneys. I mean, you just heard the quote unquote contracted engineer say, I'm going to defer to the city attorneys on this. I mean, if you've got a street that is screwed up to where it'll take the front end out of your car or your drains don't drain good enough, oh, by the way, it shouldn't be your city councilman or anybody else. It needs to be the city attorneys who you need to call.
Well, let's hear what the city attorneys had to say about that.
All these business owners calling wanting to know where their new parking lots are that the city is up there replacing parking lots. And I know how much concrete is. That's what I do for a living.
Sure.
And I never saw the money come through here that we approved for that.
We did personal inspections out there concerning the condition of some of those parking lots that were claimed to be damaged by the pile driving at the for the Walter O. Bigby overpass carriageway. And in order to, we did inspections, we did see some damage. There was damage also claimed by some of those businesses concerning cracked slabs and of the buildings and things themselves. And so in order to, lawsuits were threatened, we discussed it. Richard and myself talked to the mayor about it, and in order to basically avoid litigation, we agreed after the signing of certain releases that we would go ahead and overlay or repair those parking lots in order to avoid litigation that could have resulted from the pile driving activity out there.
So that goes back to dazzle them with brilliance or baffle them with bullshit, and we'll let y'all decide which one that is.
Okay. So for every business in Bossier City, and oh, by the way, if our good friend that's going to facilitate our bungee jumping off of the bridge down in South Bossier is listening, perhaps you should send out a notice to every business in Bossier City that if you so feel that your business has been affected in any way, shape, form, or fashion by construction of the city, you should contend filing a lawsuit, thereby getting you a whole new parking lot at the behest of the city attorney and the assistant city attorney by way of the mayor bypassing the council. That's what you should glean. And I got to tell you, I kind of think that I'm in the ballpark, and even some businesses that are adjacent to my business on Benton Road, I think we are due for a new parking lot as well too. And I have some images and pictures to back all of that freaking crap up. I mean, so I'm glad that they're finally taking this position. But for all of you people in Old Green Acres and New Green Acres where your sidewalk may be buckled up to where it's so much so that you would trip and fall, and Cassie and South Bossier where you trip and fall, broke your foot. I mean, you're just shit out of luck. I mean, that's all I'm saying, because obviously the mayor and the city attorneys, they have priority on determining who receives a benefit and who doesn't receive a benefit.
Yes, and just to prove it, I mean, here are the pictures to back all of this up. So we're not making this up. It's not like they're thinking about doing the parking lot. They're literally doing the parking lot. Or
Now,
parking lots, I should say.
Look, I got to tell you, Scott's Audio and Trim, I love the freaking guy. I love him. I am happy for him that he's getting a leg up.
Yeah.
I mean, and
we're glad he's able to game the system.
I mean, in Fairway Hardware, I mean, look, I love them too. I mean, they're both, I hate to say, co-business owners on Benton Road, and I'm proud that they're able to get a leg up. But guys, look, I've been in your parking lot. I've been in your freaking parking lot in the last 30 days, and I can tell you your parking lot was not near the problem of what my parking lot has been for the past freaking year. It's without a shadow of a doubt picking winners and losers, and there is a freaking disparity right there. That's my parking lot. That is from the city of Bossier construction on the freaking water line. They freaking did that crap right there. That's my parking lot. I mean, you didn't have that. You didn't have that. Keep going.
But you didn't threaten. But you didn't threaten them with a lawsuit, dude.
No, I didn't threaten to lawsuit them. No, I didn't threaten to lawsuit them at all. I don't do that crap. keep going through this.
Oh yeah, I'm shuffling through them.
But more importantly, those of you in Brownlee and Old Green Acres, if your roads or your sidewalks are not being, you can thank Mayor Chandler. I mean, look, Tommy Chandler, if you want to come on the show and you want to challenge this, Charles Jacobs and Richard Ray, if y'all want to come on and challenge it, by all means, come on and challenge it. We're right here. Right. It's live on TV.
Yeah.
Anybody. Alameda Drive right here. Look at this. Look at the size of this pothole. There's standing water and on streets in Bossier City, holes big enough to take the front end out of a car. But you know, we're gonna change the parking lots out for businesses.
Well, and not just anybody. The city attorneys are going to do this. Let me go on and play the rest of this dialogue because Brian Hammonds' retort was pretty good. Yeah, we got just a minute or two more.
And we got more pictures.
Yes.
Keep going.
All right, here we go. Let's hear this first.
So, did y'all have a report from a structural engineer?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, that would be your first step, and if you have foundation problems, that you would have a structural engineer go out and look at it. Not that y'all would know that, y'all are attorneys, so that's why y'all should not be out inspecting anything. So I just don't know when it came to the point that the second floor at this here approves spending money like that. I don't know where that came from. All this is doing now is opening us up to further litigation because now you have every business owner that is within 500 feet or 1,000 feet over there, they're all going to want their driveways or their slabs or anything else fixed, all because we went out and busted out the concrete at 2 other businesses. Would the contractor not have in his insurance covering any damages from driving the piles?
Again, yes, the contractor was insured, and there was.
So that should go back on his insurance.
And there was testing done all throughout the course of that project.
I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. How much did this cost?
I don't know the exact number, sir, but I can get that for you.
Oh, it's sir now.
Man, was it overlaid or was it concrete we poured out there?
Concrete.
Complete driveways were busted out down to subsurface and re-poured.
So what say y'all, everybody?
Okay.
I mean, who gets these sweetheart deals for driveways?
Look, Jerry Castellani asks a perfect question. She says, Duke, you have taken up for Chandler at times. What has changed in your confidence in Chandler as the right mayor for the city? Well, he is reelected because nobody challenged him, to this last election. But look, I got to tell you, if he is just out appropriating money to refill parking lots for people, and Charles, the city attorney and assistant city attorney, are making the delineation as to whether or not they can just go expend money to fill people's parking lots, whether or not the council has a say or not has a say in it, you damn right, I got a problem with it. I got a big problem with it. That's not right at all. And
I don't know what to say. I'm in shock. I mean,
look at this right here, Rex. This picture, you got it right here. This is on Alameda Street. Y'all see that tape measure? And to the person that sent me this picture, thank you. I appreciate your work to send me this picture. But look at that right there. That is a tape measure in the hole. That is how deep below the road in Bossier City. It's got a 2-inch deep pothole full of water, but yet in Vince Maggio's district, we're repaving private businesses' parking lots. So for all of you voters in Swan Lake, if you're out in Swan Lake in that area and your road or your sidewalk and all of that shit is falling in, if you're in Green Acres or if you're in Brownlee or Old Green Acres and you're pro Vince Maggio people, why is Vince Maggio not fighting for you? Because this right here, this pothole with 2-inch deep water, that's in your district, but yet private businesses are being their parking lots are being redone. I mean, I get it. 100-year-old business, yeah. I mean, you need to keep plugging along and checking that box for Vince Maggio. I mean, it's going to pay off for you. Maybe 100 years from now. I mean, I get it. Go ahead. I understand.
I really don't know what else to say. The city council has
don't
done a
know
lot of
either.
stupid things, but this is way up there on the list.
Look,
And kudos to Hammonds for bringing it to the forefront.
Yeah. I mean, that is what public service is about, is risking what, it may not be popular. It may not, because look, all the Maggio people, all the pro Chandler people, they're all pissed off at Brian Hammonds. They're all like, you made us all look bad. But he don't give a damn. He's throwing it all out there.
Yeah.
Brian Hammonds is a type of public servant that you need that doesn't give a damn, throws it all out there and says, you know what? I don't care whether it is the end of me or the beginning of me, but I'm going to let the public have the ability to judge for themselves whether it's right or wrong. And in this case, it's bullshit. You got sidewalks falling in everywhere in these districts, and you're paving private properties. They're great guys. Scott is a good guy, and the Fairway Hardware guy is a good guy. They're both good people, private businesses, but it's not right. Yeah. It's not right. It's bullshit.
Oh, yeah, we don't blame them for taking advantage of the system. We blame the mayor and the city attorneys and all their cronies for letting this happen. I mean, it's that simple.
You better believe it. Tommy, if you're going to take a Tahoe to Dallas, or you're going to have the police chief and all your cronies riding around with a designated driver in the city vehicle, I got to tell you, we're not going to let it slide like we let it slide before. I mean, this is crossing the line too far, and you may not even make swearing in, to the next term. You may not even make it. You better tread lightly. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Politics has a long memory. All right, Mr. Lowry. What else for the evening?
Oh, did I ever say anything about the Whitmans out putting out campaign signs for Democrats against Republicans while going to the Republican Women of Bossier meeting tonight, trying to have their cake and eat it too? Did I say anything about that?
Why, yes, you did, but it never hurts to say it again.
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't say anything about that. I don't know. I mean, somewhere I feel like that I'll get a message from some lawyer in Bossier City saying with some excuse as to why they did what they did.
Yeah, well, we'll see. All right. What else?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm missing something. Jesus, there's something I'm missing. I'm missing something. There's something we got to cover.
I'm sure but we have no notes.
I know for a fact I'm missing something. Yeah. I know for a fact I'm missing something. Okay. So, all right. There's right at 100 people. Here's what I want to know. So, there's 100 of y'all watching. How many of you 100 people, and I want you to immediately message in the comments. I want you to type. Are y'all ready? I want you to text. I want you to answer this question, yes or no. Do you know somebody? All you got to do is say yes or no. Do you know somebody? There's 100 people. Do you know somebody that lives in Brownlee, Green Acres, Old Green Acres, or Swan Lake Road? Message in the comments, yes or no. All right, we're going to start the clock. We're going to say do 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 do.
Yes,
What is that?
I don't think I have a music cue for the Jeopardy music. That's pretty good though.
Do 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 do. I ain't seen the first damn comment. Do 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 do. How much of a
Oh,
delay
here
is
we
there?
go. Little bit of a delay, but
Do
here we
do
go.
do do do
We've
do do.
got a couple of
Do
yeses
do
going on
do
here.
do 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 do. Do 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 do. Okay, either y'all are not playing. There's 100 people, and I only see 2 comments. I mean, that
Yeah,
means only
there's
2% of you.
about 3 or 4 to be
Okay,
fair.
well, I'm just saying. I mean, okay, so I'm at 4%, maybe at best 4%. Okay, so here's the deal. If all of you, if there's 100 of you, and I just find it hard to believe that 100 of you don't know somebody that lives in Old Brownlee, Green Acres, Old Green Acres, or Swan Lake Road. I find it hard to believe that you don't know somebody. And what I'm advocating for is that each one of you, I am tasking each one of you. You know, you've watched this show, and if you believe that we're telling the truth, I mean, you may believe in the other side of the equation, and that's fine if you believe in the other side of the equation. But if you believe that what we're saying is true and that we're not lying, and I encourage anybody that thinks we're lying, please challenge us. I beg you, Vince Maggio, I beg you to come on here and say that we're not telling the truth. I beg you, Vicky Whitman, Juliana, Rusty, Randy Rogers, all of you, any of you, please, I beg you to come on here and challenge me by all means. Because I don't, you're free. I'm not going to be mean to you at all. I'm not. But challenge me and say where I'm lying. But for all of you that know somebody in that district, I'm challenging you. Election day is coming up this next coming Saturday. And the challenge is for each one of you to call somebody and tell them to go vote for Ruth Pope Johnston. Go vote. The Maggio campaign is spending $50,000 to $100,000. I mean, that's the way this thing is going to go. And Ruth Pope Johnson is only going to spend 3,000, maybe 4,000 at the most. It is a David and Goliath effort. That is it. And you can make a difference. If 100 of y'all call somebody in that district and get them to go vote, that can change the difference in the election. And while they say we are lying, we have offered endlessly the opportunity for what we assert to be challenged. They won't challenge it. They live in darkness. I'm going to say that. I mean, we're right here in the light. God and the world can see everything that we're saying. And if we're lying, challenge us, call us out right here. But nobody's doing it. Why do they not do it, Rex?
I don't know. I mean, just as low as the turnout has predicted and probably going to be, all things considered in this race, every vote can count, especially in some of these races. And so everybody needs to grab a friend, grab a neighbor that has not already voted, and make sure they get to the polls on Saturday. Every vote counts.
Nobody's going to say it. Anyway, challenging you all to call somebody, get them to go out and vote. I am sinking further and further in my chair.
Further and further. I've chased you as far as I can with the camera. You just keep going lower and lower. All right.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Has.
I was putting out crawfish traps and getting ready to get the season going. I'm glad this election season is over. I hope that everybody is educated on the constitutional amendments. And I don't know. I think the debate with Chris was productive. I don't know that 100% I agree with Chris. I think that we have to change. He didn't convince me. I think we have to change, and I'm not ready to say that what they're proposing is screwing the teachers or screwing the old folks. I don't believe any of that. I don't think any of those people. I know the people that wrote this bill. I think they're good people. Their intentions are pure. They're wanting to do good, and I think we need to give them the chance. And I think we need to. We know that doing the same thing is a broken record, and I think we need to give them a chance.
I can't disagree with that.
That's where I'm
at. All right. Well, where I'm at is I am going to get some dinner now, and I have to order some network cable and fix my network.
You need some squirrel traps. That's what you need.
That's what they make pellet rifles for in 22 shorts.
Traps are so much easier.
Yes, well.
You're just a squirrel trying to get a nut.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We appreciate everybody watching. We've had a pretty darn good crowd, and this has been one of our longer shows in a while, but I think the content was pretty good, a pretty good back and forth with Mr. Alexander. And don't forget, reach out to your city council member and let him know you want your free driveway and parking lot courtesy of the city of Bossier.
Amen to that. Good night.
Amen. Good night. We're out of here.